silence and Pledge of Allegiance, please. Thank you. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Next item on our agenda is items of interest, recognition, and inquiry. Board of Education members, anybody have anything? Mr. Richley.
I just wanted to thank the bus drivers for doing their annual Stuff-A-Bus food drive and clothing drive, both on the Marine City and St. Clair ends of the district. They did an excellent job, so I wasn't there for it, but I heard that it went very well. So,
great.
I'll just quickly congratulate the St. Clair varsity tennis team. Won regionals and was 7th place in the state. So it was a great finish for their season.
Marine City football is going back to the districts for the 18th consecutive year, 23 out of 25 years.
Wow.
Outstanding.
Yes.
Dr. Skolka.
Let me echo Trustee Richley's thanks to the drivers for their annual Stuff-A-Bus event. It really kicked off what is a season of community service by our students and our employees. Just this past weekend, students were involved in Trunk or Treat, a trick-or-treat event for little ones. They had haunted house activities. And we will and I know that various buildings have started their food drives for Thanksgiving, and then we'll go right into the Christmas holidays, and many families are adopted at the holidays. So if you have the opportunity to be supportive of these initiatives, please do so. And again, I cannot thank our staff and our students enough for all the community service that they do for those in need in our communities. Secondly, October is National Principals Month, if you did not know that. There's been a hashtag running around Twitter, Thank a Principal. And so we're almost out of October and into November. So if you haven't had an opportunity yet to thank a principal, please do so. And we also want to recognize our Pine River Elementary Principal, Mrs. Joyce Lemmer. She will be recognized in December at the MEMSPA, which is the Michigan Elementary and Middle School Principals Association, as a regional outstanding practicing principal. And so congratulations, and we're very proud of you. Thank you so much.
All right. Next item on our agenda is a special recognition, East China Education Foundation grants. Mrs. Colleen Stover, Mrs. Laura Cardemus, presenters.
Dr. Skalka, Board of Education, thank you for having us tonight. My name is Laura Cardemus, and this is Colleen Stover, and we are going to pass out the East China Educational Foundation grants for tonight. Okay, let me see if I remember how to do this. Okay, arrow down. These are the 2015 fall grant recipients. Okay, get the right arrow. Okay, a little bit about the foundation. It's an endowment fund through the Community Foundation of St. Clair County. With the fall 2015 awards, over $115,000 has been given out in grants. Yay. The 2015 fall grant award recipients, 17 grants were given out, ranging from $130 to $860. All are being awarded tonight for a total of $7,922.89. Okay, our first recipient is Rachel Radigan, the Early Childhood Program. Rachel will be using her grant money to purchase tools for teaching self-regulation and help with the social and emotional development of her early childhood students. She's digging it up there. The next recipient is Cindy Whisman from St. Clair High School. Cindy asked for clay and glaze for an 8-week after-school project, culminating in the participation of the Festival of Arts in the spring. Next recipient is Amy Lawson, a speech-language pathologist. Amy works with the Early Childhood Program and is purchasing several Little People sets to help improve their play skills, as well as learn holiday and seasonal vocabulary. Next recipient is Christy Seguin from Palms Elementary. Christy is purchasing a renewal online database subscription for all Palms students. Next recipient is Paul Dimmer from Marine City High School. Paul is purchasing a 3D printer kit used to prepare his students for the Science Olympiad in the spring. Next recipient, Kathy Grebe from Bell River Elementary. Kathy is purchasing lesson materials following the Kagan structure that our teachers were introduced to this past August. Next recipient is Laura McDonald from St. Clair Middle School. Laura is purchasing a Spiro 2.0 robotic ball with phone apps for iPhone or tablets. This will teach programming and technology to the middle school students. Next is Kelly Parkinson from Bell River Elementary. Kelly is purchasing a soft comfort swing chair for her students with behavioral issues, providing them with a tool used as a proactive sensory break. Yes. Next recipient is Sarah Ranger. She's a speech-language pathologist at Gearing and Palms Elementary. Sarah is purchasing an expanding expressions tool for help in improving oral and written language. Next recipient is Pamela Hornberger from Marine City Middle and Marine City High School. Pam will be purchasing clay and glaze to use in her art classes for the Marine City Middle and High School students. Next recipient is Alison Nowell from Palms Elementary. Alison is purchasing 4 Remo Tubano drums for her music program. Next recipient is Megan Hargrave, a district occupational therapist. Megan works with students across the district and is purchasing items to support those with behavior and attention deficits by providing them with tools that will assist them with self-regulation. Next recipient is Jason Steyr from Riverview East High School. Jason's students are working with the City of Marine City and the State of Michigan on their Safe Routes to School project. Jason will be purchasing plywood and paint as needed for this endeavor. Wow. Next recipient is Tracy Benden. She's a CI teacher at St. Clair Middle School. Tracy will be purchasing 2 full classroom sets of books, one at a first grade level and one at a second grade level for her cognitively impaired students, providing them with the necessary tools to increase student achievement. Fit on in there. The next recipient is Pam Young from Marine City Middle School. Pam will be purchasing items used to prepare her students for the Science Olympiad competition to be held in March 2016. Next recipient is Nicole Apparel from the Early Childhood Program. Nicole will purchase items to assist children with autism, ADHD, and sensory integration disorders, providing them the much-needed tools to calm themselves or keep themselves from getting distracted, therefore allowing them to stay focused in the classroom. Next recipient, Denise Manon. Denise is purchasing materials to make clay tiles like the ones hanging in the walls of Eddie for her 4th and 5th grade students to take home as a memorial of their building. Congratulations to the 2015 Fall Grant recipients.
Two rows, 2 rows, 2 rows, 2 rows, 2 rows.
Hey, Paul. He's the token male. That's what I was just going to say, though.
There would have been 2, but Nina accepted.
Okay, yeah, that's right. Jason Steyr. You're right.
Again, there's information on how to donate. Make checks payable to the Community Foundation of St. Clair County. You can send your checks right to the East China School District. And again, you can see where the money goes, all to good enrichment programs for all our schools. We also, from what I understand, the rivalry run, which we were promoting for the school district, it was held in Marysville yesterday, and from what Colleen told me, we came in second, which is pretty impressive. She says next year we're going to come in first, so I'm sure we're going to receive a little bit of money from that. And again, we have our Chili Heart 5K run coming this February 20th on a Saturday. So remember, all the support we can get makes us give more money out, so that'll be really good. It's supposed to be a milder winter, too, this year, so fingers crossed. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Next item on our agenda is the Academic Spotlight, Riverview East High School. Nina Resnich, Principal, Little Libraries.
Dr. Skalka and members of the board, as you may or may not know, we are at Riverview moving towards doing more project-based learning. And here, Pat Keck, who's sitting there like she's not presenting or something, come on up here. We'll be telling you about one of our favorite projects, but we have several going on right now, and some are an extension from last year, including a walking tour of Marine City where students are studying the historical sites of Marine City. We're designing our own school because there's a $50 million grant that's going to be distributed once we design our school. There you go. We're going to get about 5 million of that. That's the plan. So that's part of our project-based learning. But here's Pat to tell you about our little libraries that I hope you are seeing all over the county. Pat?
Good evening. Yes, we did for the last project-based learning project between the art teacher, Jason Steyr, and myself as an ELA teacher, the Little Library Project. Some of you may have heard about the Little Library concept, and if you have been driving around town, surely you've probably seen some of our libraries. Which one do I push, Nina? Downward arrow. Oh, how handy. Okay, so all of our projects begin with a driving question, something that focuses the students on the ultimate goal of the project. And our project-based learning always tries to do something that is real life, making a real life connection. So our driving question was, how can we use literature and art to address the literacy issue in our area? So to answer the question, the students did a variety of things. They researched literacy, which was the ELA part of it. They brainstormed different ideas. We brought in an expert from the literacy program at the county library system. And then we went online and we found the Free Little Library Organization. This is their mission to promote literacy and love of reading by building free book exchanges worldwide and to build a sense of community as we share skills, creativity, wisdom across generations. So using that idea, we were ready to tackle our own project. So these pictures reflect some of the skills that they shared between the art students and the ELA classes. In the English class, we partnered with the art students to design, we financed the building of these boxes, and also to find a place to put the box and to fill the library box with books. The students reached out to the community, which is another part of project-based learning, and were met with enthusiasm. We were given donations of materials, books, locations, skills, and more. On the right, you have kids sorting the books donated by a local church after they had held their rummage sale. They had heard about our project, called us up, and a few kids and myself went over to that church and picked up all the books that they didn't sell at their rummage sale so we could redistribute them. St. Clair Recreation was a great help to us and found many places for us to put our boxes. The Macomb Daily donated out-of-use paper boxes, newspaper boxes. We made one phone call, and they said, absolutely, come and pick them up. And as usual, I enlisted my husband for that job. We had help from Mr. Ted Sladowski, inviting the students to his workshop where they learned to bend metal, so all kinds of different interactions with the community. And then they filled their boxes with donations from local libraries, bookstores, families, and friends, so we had a book drive. We held a public exhibition where the students had to present their projects and answer questions from members of the community. So they really had to become experts in this project to be able to talk one-on-one to people that came in from the community. It wasn't just parents, these were invested community members and just people who had heard about the exhibition. As part of the exhibition, the students plotted a map of the box locations, and we also, of course, thanked our generous donors. Here are some samples of their creativity. The one in the upper left is outside of Ackett's Restaurant in the St. Clair Mall, and they have kind of a fishing theme going on where they actually have an aquarium on top of it. And they found all of these materials themselves. They asked for donations. They did all of the painting. On the upper right, we have our Heroes box, and these young men were really interested in not only comic book heroes, but real world heroes like the U.S. Army and Navy, and we had people come in and send them stickers, and we had a gentleman in Port Huron donate a ton of literature about the armed services, and so that is in their box. And then the one on the lower right, it actually went into a garden for the young woman who was tragically killed on the walking trail in Armada. And Kara, the student, reached out to her mom, and her mom was just overwhelmed that Kara would want to do something. So Kara found out her favorite books and was able to get donations of those favorite books for April's memorial garden in Armada. And this is a measure of our success from the project, seeing people use and enjoy the boxes. So, you know, everywhere that we go, we see people. We have had a lot of feedback on how people are enjoying the boxes. We just got a big donation that came in last week. So it's an ongoing project. The students are continuing to go and to monitor their boxes to make sure that they're filled and in good repair. So we love seeing kids using our boxes. Thank you.
I know Pat's trying to run away, but if you do have any questions, Pat and Jason have worked so hard on this, as all our teachers have on so many of the projects that are happening in our school. We're really proud of it. The superhero one, Pat forgot to mention that when you open it, it actually begins to play Star Wars. So they are thinking things through, but the most important thing that they are learning besides the curriculum is actually how to communicate, how to look at someone in the eye, shake their hands, and be able to express what they're doing, why they're doing it, and we're getting nothing but wonderful feedback from the community and the business owners, so we're really enjoying the project. So any questions?
Awesome.
Just good job.
Yeah, that's impressive.
Awesome.
Awesome. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Our next item on our agenda is the consent agenda. Approval of minutes, September 28, 2015, regular meeting. Approval of payment of bills, financial statement, schedule of investments. Motion is needed.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Kennegbauer,
Support.
support by Mrs. Bebut.
No, Mrs. Murphy.
Mrs. Murphy, I'm sorry. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion carried. Next item is recognition of persons wishing to address the board. Mr. Craig Gilp. Topic is a bond proposal.
My name is Craig Yope, 1313 Mayor, St. Clair Township. Really what I'm trying to get a wrap around here is the bond proposal that you've passed or passed the wording for and you're trying to get on the ballot. I'm not opposed to you spending the money, trying to get the money to spend it on the buildings, but I'm opposed to how you're spending it. Now, I see what you're doing as more of a Band-Aid. You're just trying to get by, and you're not making the hard decision to move on. At this point, with the age of the buildings in this district, it's time to move forward and build some new stuff. Now, I see that one of the options as part of the facility studies was a consolidated high school. I think that you need to go even further. You need to step forward and start at the top and go with a consolidated high school and a consolidated middle school. Now that, going there, building with that, up top, you start there. When those are finally built and you're in to those buildings, everybody moves into that. At that point, then you can shift around the elementary. My thought would be to move most of the stuff in the north end up to the St. Clair Middle School, the present building, which now would be vacated as you moved everybody down to a consolidated middle school. South end, you would have Bell River would be the rest of the elementary. Going forward, you know, you're putting the money into a new building at the top end, the two new buildings. I would also say, hey, your maintenance bus garage over there too. You build that new, get that out of the way. By doing all of this, you're starting the pattern of building these new buildings, and you're setting yourself up. Right now, all you're doing is passing the buck. You're moving it on down the line. 10, 15 years, you're going to be back at the same spot, looking at roofs, looking at all of this stuff, and these buildings will have gotten 15 years older. You got to start moving forward on buildings. You do that, you build new at the top. 15, 20 years from now, then you can get out of some of your bottom buildings. You still have a relatively new building, as in the St. Clair Middle School, and you have the new buildings, which then will be 20 years down the road. What I'm proposing too is at this point, by doing all of this, when you finally move over to the new buildings, and like I say, elementary over to, let's say, St. Clair Middle School, which now be the Northern Elementary, you have Bell River down at the south end. Another thing you're doing is you're not spending, you're just trying to get by on the rest of these buildings. Eventually, you'll be getting out of Palms, you'll be getting out of both high schools, Marine City Middle School, Gearing. Why are you throwing money at these buildings? These buildings are just getting old. At that point, you'd be down to, and then like this building, $7.5 million for this building. I don't get that. And it's just money going in the wrong way. This is a 60-year-old building, no matter what you've done to fix it up. At that point, you would be down to Bell River and Pine River, all of this, all the specialty stuff, and the administration could move up to Pine River. You're down to those two buildings, which are old buildings. You have the middle school building up there, which is an in-between building in age, and then you have the two new buildings. Also, if you build a new bus garage, maintenance building, and move that off of this property, you get rid of this building, you're gonna have a lot better parking at the PAC, because you're gonna still fix the PAC, you're still gonna fix the football stadium. You only have one entrance. You get rid of these buildings, you have two entrances and exits out of this place. You ever try to get out of here after a band concert, it's a mess. And so you move off on that. At that point, you're getting rid of all of these different old structures, and you're getting rid of that property. You're down to just 5 educational buildings at that point, and you're moving on, and you're setting yourself up, as I said, for sets of years of building. You'll have new buildings that, you'll have a middle-aged building, you have older ones. 20 years down the road, then you can worry about Bell River and Pine River, building those, but you'll have the other new buildings. Right now, you're just marking time, and you're spending money in the wrong direction. It's going to the wrong thing, and you're just passing the buck. You people probably aren't going to be here. Somebody else is going to be here 15, 20 years, and they're going to have to make this decision, and they're going to have all these old buildings that they're going to have to then start trying to build new. And then they'll still have these other buildings that they can't build them all at one time, and those will be getting even older as you move on. So this is, you still have time to talk about this before, you haven't even passed the bond yet. You sure as heck haven't spent the money. So you still have time to talk about this and come up with other ideas on how to move forward on this, because it's just not acceptable. Heck, my daughters are going to be gone from this district, but that doesn't mean that I don't want newer buildings. These teachers out here that are getting these grants, they're busting their hump, but you're not giving them the buildings to work within, and these things are just getting older. And so they're going to keep fighting and doing this kind of stuff, but where are you going to be at? So that's...
Sir,
Thank you.
Sir,
No.
Can I ask you a question? Did you read first of all, you made lots of valid points. Did you read the Barton Mallow study?
Correct.
Yes.
Yes.
You did read that?
Yes.
What did you think about the consolidated high school plan that they put together?
That's fine, but like I said, that's only one building, and then you're waiting 6 years to get that one online. And then when you come off of that, then you're going to have, one of the problems is you're going to have that middle school, high school complex down in Marine City. Well, when you move the two people to the high school, fine, you're going to shut down the St. Clair High School, but then you're going to have that building down there that's going to then be half full, and you're going to be sitting there trying to figure out what to do. What I'm suggesting is when you get to that point where you shift that all up, that property is fully empty, and you can sell it off as a full piece. If you do it the way you were talking about, you're only using half the building, and then the other half is sitting there and you're destroying it, or what are you doing? And then you're still occupying that space. That piece of property would be good to get rid of if you could sell it all at one time and it's fully cleared. If you're still sitting around there occupying half of it, it's still, you've got the whole piece of property, but you're only using half of it now. And so, same thing with, why put money into Gearing or any of these other buildings, Palms? I just don't get, you can get by on these roofs, or, if you can only last 5 or 6 years on these things, but when you go and put this into like a roof on one of these high schools, it's a flat roof. What's it going to last? What's your guarantee? 10 to 15 years? It's going to last 20? You're going to be right back to this. That's going to be another, you're putting lipstick on a pig. Move on.
All right.
Thank you.
Dorothy Oak?
Dorothy Oak, 1313 Mayor. Just kind of want to back up what Craig has said. In fact, I was going to refer to this as his lipstick on a pig argument, but yeah, you know, I'm just too afraid that we could be throwing good money after bad. We do have a lot of old buildings. I particularly have this beautiful vision of the new high school, of what East China High School could look like. The fact that we are putting $18 million to fix up the two high schools that we have is what's proposed in the current bond, and that's a nice down payment that we could be making on a new high school. I attend St. Christopher's in Marysville. I look across the street at that beautiful high school. I've toured it. It's just incredible. I'm a teacher in L'Anse Creuse Public Schools. I sat on the bond committees to improve those buildings, to put in pools, to put in the Performing Arts Center, and those are also lovely facilities I chose not to send my kids to, just like I'm not sending them to Marysville. And I drive by Anchor Bay on a fairly regular basis, another beautiful building I'm not choosing to send my kids to because the staff here has been absolutely incredible to the Oak family. We've been very lucky. And although there is this little pain in my heart, you know, when I go to a swim meet for my kid and then I go to a swim meet at L'Anse Creuse High School where I worked to get that bond passed. And, you know, anyway, the facilities aren't even close to being comparable. So I think the time has come for East China High School, and my husband's used to me volunteering him, so the two of us would be happy to be on the committee to get that bond passed. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Reports. Our next item on the agenda, Parent-Student Advisory, Dr. Skalka and Mrs. Pat Biebuck.
Well, October is the first of our 4 quarterly meetings with both parents who are on the Parent Advisory Committee, and then 2 days later, our Student Advisory Committee. Trustee Biebuck attended both, and I'll give her the opportunity if she wants to start any reflections.
It was just nice to have the students from Riverview and St. Clair High and Marine City High get together and talk about what's going on in the schools, what they would like to see. I did throw out the idea of what do you think about a central high school, you know, and they were real positive with that. They just felt there could be more opportunities. But besides that, you know, it was just great to see what the kids were working on, and yeah, it's good. We have good kids. The parent advisory, I'll let you, Dr. Skalka, do that one. It was talking about the bond.
We talked a little bit about the prospective facilities and technology improvements. Just clarify some things for the folks that were there. But I think, as Mrs. Biebuck shared with the Student Advisory Committee, the best part of Parent Advisory is hearing from parents about what they think, what they are excited about going on in their schools and any concerns that are going on in their schools. If we had a little lower than normal turnout, and so I would encourage any parent who maybe want to get involved in Parent Advisory to contact their principal, and in turn their principal will get in touch with Mrs. Vargo, and we'll either add them or swap them into positions, because again, it's an outstanding opportunity to hear from parents in an informal setting, as well as the PTO officers, about all the things going on in their schools. So I appreciate the opportunity.
Great. Next item is our 2014-15 audit. Mr. Curtis McBride.
Good evening, school board, Dr. Skalka. My name is Curtis McBride. I'm a CPA for McBride Manley & Company. We are the auditing firm that audits the East China School District's books and records. I believe we've been the auditor since 1986, so it's been a long time. It's been a great relationship with the school district. I've been with the firm for just over 15 years actually, and I've been involved in the East China audit since day one. I'm the managing partner for our firm, and I'm our tax director. With me this evening is also Gwen Brzezinski. She's been with our firm for just over 16 years, and just like me, she's been involved in the district's audit since she started. So both of us are very familiar with the school district, its finances, and its audit. Before I get into the slides, I just want to let you guys know that I also handed out a hard copy of my presentation, if you'd like to follow that way. My only requirement is that you do not distribute that to the general public, please, because it's just summarized information of our full report, and it does not contain our audit opinion, so I do not want it taken out of context. So please do not hand that out to anyone. I am pleased to announce that at June 30, 2015, our firm did give East China School District an unmodified or clean audit opinion. Now, that just simply means that we believe that your financial report is in compliance with our professional standards. It does not mean that we're providing any sort of opinion on the financial health of the district. So I do want to make that clear. The first fund I want to talk about is the general fund. Now, this fund primarily derives its revenues from property taxes and state aid. Now, in looking at the balance sheet for the general fund at the end of June 30, 2015, you can see that the majority of the assets are in the form of cash and investments, so just over $4.5 million in cash at the end of June. You had another about $5 or $5.1 million due from other governmental units. That's primarily amount due from the state of Michigan for state aid. So about 4.2 of that is actually your state aid for the months of May and June of 2015 that you received in July and August of 2015. So it was sitting in accounts receivable at the end of June 30. So the general fund finished the year with total assets of about $9.6 or $9.7 million. It had obligations against those assets of about $5.2 or $5.3 million and finished the year with an ending fund balance of about $4.42 million. Now, I'll talk about the fund balance level in a little bit more detail on my next slide. Now, this is the general fund statement of revenues, expenditures, and changes in fund balance, or the income statement, if you will. As I mentioned in my previous slide, you can see most of the revenues are from property taxes and state aid. So the general fund had about $13.5 million in property taxes during the year, and state aid accounted for about $23.2 million of total revenues in the fund. And then you had another $1.57 million in federal sources, which is primarily federal grant monies. So the general fund generated about $39.7 million of revenues for the year. It had total expenditures of about $39.8 million, and it used about $87,000 of its fund balance for the year, which left it with a fund balance of about $4.42 million. Now, the state of Michigan recommends at a minimum, Michigan Department of Education and the Michigan Department of Treasury, that the general fund have a fund balance of about 10% of annual expenditures at a minimum. And at the end of 2015, the general fund had a fund balance in relation to its expenditures of about 11%. So it is in excess of the minimum recommended by the state of Michigan, but I certainly wouldn't go as far as to say it's an excessive fund balance by any stretch. Now, this next slide is looking at the general revenues by source, and we're comparing 2014 to 2015. Now, if you look at property taxes, they went from about $13.28 million in 2014 to just over $13.5 million in 2015, so it was a slight increase. Looking at state aid revenues, they went from about $23.88 million in 2014 down to about $23.22 million, so you did have a slight loss in state aid revenue between 2014 and 2015. So you can see there was a total decrease in revenues of about 1.2% between 2014 and 2015. You went from $40.2 million in total revenues to about $39.7 million in revenues. So even though there was a slight decrease, though, when you look at the relationship between the 2 years, there's a pretty consistent relationship as far as the allocation of the revenues. Now we're going to look at the general fund expenditures in a little bit more detail. Here we're looking at function. And for the general fund, the largest function is for what we call basic programs. Now, the expenditures for basic programs are basically the expenditures for the schools themselves. So this would be the elementary schools, the middle schools, and the high schools. So basically, all the salaries and benefits and supplies related to the schools themselves. So basic programs went from about $22.19 million to just over $22 million in 2015, so you had a slight decline in basic program expenditures. Another major expenditure function would be added needs. That's primarily special education. You can see that actually went from about $3.848 million up to about $3.98 million in 2015. And similar to the revenues, you see when you look at the total expenditures here, 2014 you had total expenditures of about $40.6 million, and that number came down to about $39.8 million in 2015. So you had about a 2% decrease in expenditures in the general fund for 2015 compared to 2014. Here we're looking at general fund expenditures by type, and we're going back to 2013 here. Now, when you compare the 3 years, well, first of all, when you look at type, obviously school districts are very labor intensive. You know, they depend on teachers and things of that nature, so you would expect salaries and benefits to be the major expenditure type for a school district. That makes sense. Looking at 2013, salaries were about $23.45 million. That number came down to about $22 or $22.1 million in 2015. Looking at benefits, they were just over $12 million in 2013, fell to about $11.8 million in 2014, and then went up to about $12.5 million in 2015. But really, when you look at salaries and benefits combined, going back to 2013, comparing to 2015, they did decrease in total. So you can see expenditures went from about $40.8 million in 2013 down to about $39.8 million in 2015. So going back to 2013, you've had about a $1 million decrease in expenditures in the general fund. Here we're looking at the 5-year historical revenue and expenditure trend for the general fund. Here we're going all the way back to 2011. Looking at revenues, which is on the right, you can see in 2011, the general fund generated about $44.4 million in annual revenues. That number's come all the way down to $39.7 million at the end of 2015. So that's about a $4.7 million loss of revenues in the general fund going back to 2011. And of course, that's primarily a result of a decrease in property tax revenues and state aid funding during that time period. But really, when you look at it, the good news is when you look at 2013, 2014, and 2015, you can see that for the most part that is leveled off. So really where you had the most drastic decline was between 2011 and 2012. Looking at the expenditures on the right, you can see going back to 2011, the peak year for expenditures was you had about $43.9 million in expenditures, and that has come all the way down to about $39.8 million in 2015. So just like the revenues, expenditures have also declined just over $4 million. And of course, that's a direct result of the budget process in anticipation of the loss in revenues. This next slide we're looking at, we're comparing the general fund financial data for the district compared to other Michigan school districts. Now, this information is obtained directly from the Michigan Department of Education from Bulletin 1011. The important thing to note is that this is always a year behind. So we're comparing the 2014-2015 East China data to the 2013-2014 information from the Bulletin. So when you look at the far right, I have a column for all districts and then districts of similar size to East China. So really when you compare the financial data to other districts, as far as the relationship, I don't see anything that sticks out for me, but I think the thing to focus on, if you go near the bottom of the page here, fund balance as a percentage of total expenditures. Now, I did mention in a previous slide that currently your general fund is at about 11% at the end of 2015. When you look at the average for all school districts, again, this is 1 year behind, you're looking at 7.8%. And then districts of similar size to East China, you're actually talking more like 1.3%. Now, if I went a step further with this, and I had the largest school districts in the state, the average is actually a negative fund balance in the general fund. So East China School District is ahead of the state average, at least comparing it to, when you look at it a year behind. But again, the recommended minimum is a 10% fund balance. So you're pretty much right at the minimum fund balance level. The next fund I want to briefly discuss is the debt fund. Now, this fund is a little bit different in that its assets and resources cannot be used for general purposes. They're restricted. Now, the debt fund generates its revenues from property taxes, and those property taxes are used to pay off bonds. You look at the balance sheet for the debt fund, it had about $478,000 in cash at the end of 2015. You had miscellaneous liabilities of about $30,000 and an ending fund balance of about $450,000 at the end of 2015. And of course, at the end of 2015, you had total outstanding bonds of about $24.3 million at the end of the year. Now, you have a 2009 bond, which is for general building improvements, and then of course the 2015 bond, which is for the acquisition of school buses, which matures in 2022. Now, the school district refinanced the 2005 bond during this fiscal year, and it actually saved the district about $1.4 million over the life of that bond. So it actually saved taxpayers money, but the important thing to note is that it's money that can't be used in the general fund. It's just simply for the retirement of the bonds. Here we're looking at the income statement for the debt fund. You generated property taxes of about $5.1 or $5.2 million. You had bond proceeds of $16.6 million. So anytime you issue new bonds or refinance bonds under governmental accounting, that counts as revenue. So the debt fund had $21.8 million in revenue for the year, had total expenditures of about $21.8 million, and used about $62,000 of its fund balance for the year. Now, there really is no recommended minimum fund balance for a debt service fund. The important thing is that it generates enough revenues and has enough resources to retire the bonds that it's associated with, and it currently does. The last fund I want to briefly talk about is the sinking fund. This is what we call a capital projects fund. Basically, it's for major capital improvements for the district. It's actually for repair and construction of school buildings and technology improvements. And similar to the, almost all of its revenues are derived from property taxes. Looking at the balance sheet for the sinking fund, you can see that it had cash of about $416,000 at the end of 2015. Had liabilities of about $200,000 and finished the year with a fund balance of about $217,000. Looking at the income statement for the sinking fund, you can see it generated property taxes of about $660,000, had $844,000 of total revenues, had expenditures of $695,000, which is what we call capital outlay. Those are the major capital improvements. And it finished the year with a fund balance of about $217,000. And similar to the debt fund, there really is no recommended minimum fund balance here. The important thing is that it generates enough revenues annually and has enough resources on hand to pay for the capital improvements. That's all I have. Are there any questions from the school board?
Mr. Ridgely?
Just really quickly on the sinking fund, the under other, where it says 184,000, was that, I assume partially that was from interest, and then was it also from the general fund, or was it a carryover from?
I think I think there was an insurance claim, if I recall.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, and then I have a couple of other questions on a previous slide. Under, it says general fund expenditures by type. For salaries and benefits, the question I had it's comparing from 2013 to 2015.
Okay.
That is part of that loss. I mean, obviously part of it's cuts, but is part of that having to do with things moving in a different category, for instance, like a private service doing part of that, is that part of that or not?
I think Tina may be able to answer that better than I would.
Trustee Richley, you are absolutely correct. As wages are going down, like we can use transportation for example, the wages and labor and benefits will go down, then they will transition into the contracted services that would show up into another category.
And that would be under other, I would assume, and this?
I would actually, yes,
Okay.
that would show up into other.
Okay, thank you. And the last and final question I had was on general fund financial data compared to other Michigan school districts. Under the other transactions where there's 841,000, is that for athletics?
That is correct. The
Oh.
majority of that is athletics in that
Okay.
$841,000.
Okay.
Yes.
Thank you.
Just a clarification, as people look at and understand the state aid funding, that is the per pupil funding that we get from the state of Michigan. Just so that they know that it's, that decline is because of our drop in enrollment, so. Any other questions?
I'd just like to take a moment and thank every employee group, as well as our principals and administrators who watch over the budgets and have worked really hard to reduce the amount of draw on fund balance. If you're keeping track, the fiscal year 15 original budget anticipated an ending fund balance of 8.36%. And over the course of the year, we managed to make adjustments and provide programming so that it ended up at 11.11. So kudos to everyone in the district who works very, very hard at trying to get us to a place where we will have a balanced budget.
Long difference between $1.4 million presented to 87,000.
1-1.
Yep.
1-1 in the original budget was going to be the fund balance
1-1,
use,
right.
and it was $87,000. So again, great work by all involved.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you, school board.
Appreciate it very much.
Thank you.
Dr. Skalka, may I ask a question about the fund balance? In regard to our policy on it?
Right.
The current policy, am I correct in saying that it's 7 or 8%?
I believe that the board enacted policy to make it 7%.
Is that something we would consider moving? Not in the near future, but
I think if we were to have consistent, balanced budgets over a period of, I'd say, 3 to 5 years, I'd make that recommendation. But right now, things are still too tenuous.
okay. Thank you.
Next item on our agenda was information discussion items, and we really had an empty agenda for that.
Mm-hmm.
Our next item is action items. There are 2 items to be addressed. First, the Board of Education accepts the audit report for fiscal year 2014-15 as prepared and presented by McBride, Manley and Company, PC. Motion.
Make a motion to accept the audit report for the fiscal year of 2014 to 15 as presented.
Support.
Second.
Supported by Mr. Distelroth. Comments or questions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Next item, the administration is recommending that the Board of Education approve the resolution for summer tax collection as presented. Whereas the Board of Education, by resolution of December 19th, 2005, determined to impose a summer tax levy to collect all of annual property taxes, including debt service upon property located within the school district, beginning with 2006 and continuing from year to year until specifically revoked by the board. Now there be it resolved that the Board of Education pursuant to 1976 PA 451 as amended, revised school code, hereby invokes for 2015 its previously adopted ongoing resolution imposing a summer tax levy of all school property taxes, including debt service, upon property located within the district and continuing from year to year until specifically revoked by the board, and requests each city and/or township in which the district is located to collect those summer taxes. The superintendent or designee is authorized and directed to forward to the governing body of each city and/or township in which this district is located a copy of the board's resolution imposing a summer property tax levy on an ongoing basis, and a copy of this resolution requesting that each city and/or township agree to collect the summer tax levy for 2016 in the amount as specified in this resolution. Such forwarding of the resolutions and the request to collect the summer tax shall be performed so that they are received by the appropriate governing bodies before January 1st, 2016. Pursuant to and in accordance with Section 1613-1 of the Revised School Code, the superintendent or designee is authorized and directed to negotiate on behalf of the district with the governing body of each city and/or township in which the district is located for the reasonable expenses for collection of the district's summer tax levy that the city or township may bill under MCLA 380.1611 or MCLA 380.16.12. As any such proposed agreement shall be brought before the board for its approval or disapproval. All resolutions and parts of resolutions insofar as they conflict with the provisions of this resolution are hereby rescinded. Motion is needed.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Kennegbauer,
Support.
support by Mrs. Bebuck. Comments or questions? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. So carried. We thank everyone for coming tonight. We stand adjourned.